what's up, you guys? I'm Craig, and I love talking about movies, video games, TV shows. And today I'm here. This idea just came to me on a whim last night. I was going to do it yesterday, but I decided to do it today. But over the years, we had some great comic book superhero movies. We've had some ones that aren't so great. We have some ones that the fans love, that the critics hated, and some that the critics hated, that the critics love, that the fans hated. If that made any sense. But as the title says, this is five comic book movies that deserves the hate that it gets, and five that don't. And at the end, don't forget to on leave your thoughts in what movie do you guys like that someone else might not like. Well, I'll get into that later, but let's begin with five that deserves the hate that it gets. And coming in at number five, Thor: The Dark World. Thor: The Dark World, overall, very poor plot, very poor villain. The director left halfway through the production, so I can't remember the actress's name, but the reason the director left the production was because she didn't want to be a part of that script, and I completely understand why. And if this movie didn't have an Infinity Stone in it, a lot of fans wouldn't be rewatching it, and that is one reason why that is probably one of the only reasons to watch this movie. I mean, even having Tom Hiddleston return as Loki couldn't save this movie. I mean, the villain in this movie is poorly written. It's kind of boring, to be honest, and it's probably one of the most skippable MCU movies in the whole franchise. Coming in at number four, The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Now, this movie, going back and looking at it, this was one of the very first times that I watched a comic book movie and was disappointed with it. Usually I would go back and rewatch it and then be like, wow, this is not as good as I remember. But there are way too many subplots going on with Harry taking over Oscorp, and it's like they put all their eggs in one basket. Like I said, way too many subplots with Harry taking over Oscorp, Norman Osborn getting sick, and Emma Stone's character, Gwen Stacy, going off to college to a different school, and they were just juggling like five plots at once, and it just didn't work. And Jamie Foxx's Electro was very poorly written. His goal, if you want to see a real how Electro should be written, play the video game from 2018 or watch Spectacular Spider-Man. That's how Electro should be written. And to be honest, Dane DeHaan is a great actor, but his Goblin was not up to par. And as much as I love the whole Gwen Stacy thing being portrayed, I felt like it was kind of rushed. They didn't really need to do that at all. And if they were going to do it, they should have just focused on Goblin as the villain instead of three at the same time. Coming in at number three is Suicide Squad. Now, Suicide Squad, we all know about this. Now, particularly, this movie was rushed. This was right after Dawn of Justice, and they had to tone down the darkness of this movie because the backlash that they got from Dawn of Justice, and it still didn't save the movie. They had 6 weeks to write the script, and they didn't have a lot of time. and the main villain of the film is just isn't that great, to be honest. So the Joker as uh, Harold Jared Leto's Joker is just really really terrible, and probably if I were to write the movie, to go back and rewrite the movie, I would definitely have Jared Leto's Joker as the villain, but I would also change it up that way he doesn't look like a freaking drug dealer. And just Common's version, the way Common looked in this movie, that's just a whole nother conversation. And I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but Suicide Squad was a mess. Coming in at number two, the infamous Venom. Now, I don't know why some fans enjoy this movie. I can't seem to wrap my head around it, but it really is a mess from beginning to end. And you can tell this movie is made from a very low budget. Tom Hardy is a great actor, but he's being fed dog food in this movie because of the humor is off. The humor is off. The villain isn't written that great. The the love interest isn't that great either, and the CGI is just a mess. So yeah, that's all I'm gonna have to say about this one. I'm not excited about the next one, and I can't believe some people actually enjoy this movie. How can you even defend this movie? This movie was terrible. But I mean, if you enjoy it, hey, that's on you. You just have really bad taste. The next one coming in at the number one, taking the number one spot of movies that deserve the hate is Dawn of Justice. Another, like I said with Venom, another movie that the fans seem to enjoy, that the critics hate, and this definitely deserved the hate that it got. I mean, the writing style was all over the place. It didn't make any sense at all. Like, how can Clark Kent not know who Bruce Wayne is? And Bruce Wayne, Batman being a killer, still doesn't make sense to me at all. I can't seem to get it. It just ruins the whole mystique of Batman. It just ruins the whole mystique of Batman, and also it kind of ruins the whole Batman under the Red Hood storyline that they could potentially did in the future, but they ruined it when he's out here killing people, and it would just make him seem like a hypocrite to do the same things that Jason Todd was doing when he returned, when he came back to life as the Red Hood. And they were like I said with Amazing Spider-Man 2, they were juggling all these plots at once, and they were out of place. They only had Before this, they only had one movie, and that was Man of Steel, and they were getting ready for Justice League, so they decided to cram everything into one movie, and it just didn't work. I mean, Bruce Wayne having a nightmare about Darkseid, does that make any sense? He hasn't even met the guy, and he's having a nightmare about him. A lot of people try to defend that by saying, oh, it was the Flash. The Flash did that. But that doesn't make any sense because the Flash can't run so fast that he causes people to have a dream sequence or a nightmare. It just doesn't make sense. And the whole Martha scene, I'm not even going to get into that because that was, whatever. Okay, but yeah, that's my list of the 5 movies that deserves the hate. Now, let's get to the ones that don't deserve the hate. starting with number five, The Incredible Hulk. Now, I've seen this movie a few times. I wouldn't say it's the best MCU movie. It's definitely better than a couple others. However, I don't understand why fans hate this movie. Particularly, it's not one of, like I said, it's not one of the best, but it definitely is better than the Hulk one that came out in 2003. Now, with that being said, I mean, yeah, it could have been. Are uh there are a few points to the movie that could have been done better, but like I said, I don't have a whole lot to complain about like all these other fans do. Okay, coming in at number four, Spider-Man 3. Now, Spider-Man 3, when this came out, a lot of fans were scratching their head and left with disappointment with three villains in the movie and how Venom was done wrong, and and it wasn't Sam Romney's fault at all. Once again, this was more of a studio stepping in and ruining everything. This is not Sam Romney's movie at all. This is Sony's movie. So I don't really hate this movie. There are particular scenes in this movie, particular parts in this movie I would change. For example, when Peter got the symbiote and he became that cringy emo version of himself with the symbiote. I would have changed that. I would have changed that. The way he's supposed to act is more aggressive and hostile, not more comedic and stuff like that. But if you want to see how he's, if you want to see the real betrayal of the symbiote, watch the animated series from the '90s, or watch the Spectacular Spider-Man, which came out a year after this movie. But the there are a few things that bother me about this movie, but there isn't anything in particular I hate about it. Like the fight scenes in this movie are done really well. The scene with Peter stripping off the symbiote and it going on the Brock, that was done excellently. It reminds me of the animated series in the '90s. That was done to perfection. So there are parts of this movie I enjoyed, but like I said, it could have been done better. But it's not that bad as you people, as some fans would recall it to be. Number three, Man of Steel. Now I was just watching a few clips of this just to refresh my memory. And when this first came out, I was so hyped for it, and a lot of and this is probably one of the strongest Superman movies to date, in my opinion. It's a better version of Superman 2 from I believe, the 80s or the 70s, whenever the original Superman 2 came out. But this is a way better version of Superman 2. The visual effects is incredible. The fight scenes are awesome. The I'm not a particular I'm not a big fan of origin stories, but I did enjoy the origin story in this movie, and the chemistry between Clark and between Henry and Amy Adams is just incredible. And well, like I said, with a couple of other entries, there are a few things I would have changed about it, but there isn't, like, for example, I wouldn't have had Superman kill Zod. I would have just had him thrown him into the Phantom Zone. Um, let's see what else. If they were to have the final battle take place in the city, I would have had it where there's consequences for his actions. Like we would later see that in the sequel, where the consequences of battling in the city backfires on him when a lot of people start to despise him. But other than that, there's not really a lot of things I hate about this movie. There's not. I mean, there are a few things you can nitpick at, like the way Clark's adopted father died. That kind of bothered me. Like I said, the way uh, the villain died in this movie the way Zod died in this movie. I didn't like that. I didn't like how they um, were were trying to. Mm, well, let's just say that they didn't need to kill him. But other than those things, there isn't really a lot to complain about in this movie. It was a strong debut for what could have possibly been a great trilogy for the character. Coming in at number two, I'm going to give this the Avengers: Age of Ultron. Now, this movie, Ultron is probably one of my favorite Avengers villain, and what made me love the character so much was probably when I first saw him in the TV series Earth's Mightiest Heroes. That Ultron is really badass. Now, if they would have written him like how he was in the show into the movie, he could have been a lot more badass, a lot more menacing, and a lot of fans would have taken him more seriously. He doesn't get a lot of screen time in this movie, it but either way, um I don't particularly there isn't really a lot of fans that like the portrayal of of the Ultron in this movie. And even though I agree that killing all Quicksilver was a dumb move and they just needed to do it because somebody needed to die, uh, I still do enjoy this movie. The like I said, the visual effects, the fight scenes, incredible. This isn't one of those MCU movies that really ticks me off like Thor: The Dark World. Does have its downs, but it also has its ups too. This is one of those movies that I can rewatch, but I would prefer something like maybe like Black Panther or Winter Soldier or one of those movies. But particularly like I said, um, some fans were left disappointed with this movie. Um, for me, it's kind of a mixed bag, but it's your opinion. And it's taking the number one spot is Ant-Man and the Wasp. Now, some people criticize this movie for having too many subplots. While that's true, and not enough Michelle Pfeiffer, and that's also true, and I agree that it was kind of a disappointment that she was in there a lot more, than that last, than towards the end of the movie. It is still a very fun movie to watch. The shrinking scene, the action sequences is so fun, and the it has its charm to it. The comedic scenes are still there. There isn't as much dramatic sequences and stuff, but it does have its own charm, and it is a fun movie to watch. So that is my list of 5 comic book movies that deserves the hate it gets, and 5 that doesn't. Let let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next